Hey, Kathy, are you there? All right. So, hello, everyone, and welcome. This is my coaching. This is Amy. I'm Amy Pearson, and this is my coaching sampler. I'm just checking to see if anyone has sent me a message from Facebook to see if they want to get the link to the Zoom call. So yeah, today is week 2 of this coaching sampler. Last week we got to play with a tool called The Work, and that was really fun. And so this week we're doing something different, but it all builds on itself. So the tool that I'm going to be teaching today is going to just build on what you learned and what you experienced last week when we were playing with the work. And if you didn't get to participate last week, I do have a recording page. So I have a page that I'm using where I'm putting the recordings on, and so you can go there and you can get access to the rest of those calls and those demos. And so those of you who are not familiar with me, I mean, most of you should be, because the only way I'm really publicizing is this is on my list. So you should be moderately familiar with me. This is probably the first time you've gotten to see me, unless you're one of my previous clients, like in the flesh. So hello and welcome. It's really exciting. I am super excited to get to interact with folks. So please feel free to send me like chat or ask questions or say hello or turn your video on, because one of the reasons I love Zoom is that it gives us a chance to see each other and create community. But I also respect that some of you prefer to be anonymous. But I do hear some background noise. So that's kind of bringing up something important, and that is that we are recording, and I do want to keep the quality of the recording as high as I can. So if you are multitasking, please do, no worries, Brenda, please do mute yourself. There is a little unknown caller. Unknown caller. I'm going to turn my phone off. I got this new phone. I'm not quite sure how to turn it off. I'm just going to do that. Maybe I'll just turn the ring down. So anyway, and then a little bit about me is that I started the coaching journey in 2009, and in fact, I was working as a policy research analyst for a progressive think tank that was studying tax equity before that, and I was six months pregnant with twins. And while I was pregnant, my mom passed away suddenly, unexpectedly. And it's interesting the things that happen once you lose someone who's very dear to you. And my mom was my biggest fan. And what happened with me is that the babies were born 3 months later. And if you've ever experienced that loss or that grief, it's sort of like you feel like you're walking through fog, but also things become really clear. And for me, what was clear was that I wasn't happy, and I needed to make some changes. And that was when I finally gave myself permission to read self-help, because I was really busy trying to look smart. That was my big thing, was I wanted people to think I was super smart. And so I did things like learn languages and study computer programming and learn how to do research analysts, because part of it was because I did enjoy it. There's a part of me that's a super fact finder, and I love languages. I'm studying Spanish right now, but there was this other part of me that just really wanted to prove to the entire universe that I was this smart, intelligent person. And so I didn't allow myself permission to read self-help, because I thought that's not something smart people do. Isn't it funny, the thoughts and the stories we tell ourselves? And so after my mom died, the gift of within that was that I allowed myself permission to start reading self-help books. And I went on this self-help reading frenzy. And I happened upon the work of Martha Beck and learned that she has a certification program. And I gave myself permission to become a life coach. And so that was in 2009. And I became certified then. And then I became master's certified through her program a couple years later. And then I also was invited to train on behalf of Martha in her certification program. And so I've been doing that now for many years. And so the tools that I'm demoing, many of them I teach in certification programs. But one of the reasons why I wanted to do this demo was because I thought it would be really fantastic to give you a taste of what these tools are if you haven't worked with a coach, or if you're just looking to be exposed to some new approaches. And get some new tools under your belt. I know for me, speaking personally, after I was exposed to these tools, it was sort of like a life altering experience. I think about my life before I became a coach and was exposed to these tools and what it's like now. And I tell you, when a lot of people ask me, like, how can you prove to people that coaching is valuable? Well, you don't really need to, because that's not really the point. But one of the ways that I was kind of like what I realized in my own heart how valuable it is was just to contrast what my life was like before coaching and what it's like now. And I honestly can say that I would mortgage my house several times over for the kinds of transformations that I've experienced and the difference in terms of my life and the results I've been able to bring about, and the just changes in my relationships with myself and my family, my husband, my children. And so it is amazing. I love Martha too. Wow. Thank goodness for Martha. Thank goodness for her out there writing her story, doing her thing. And that's another reason why I wanted to share these tools is because a lot of times we are stuck in our own fear, and the world needs us. The world needs whatever special juju you have. And so that's one of the reasons why these tools are so powerful, is because they help you to get over that shit. So today we are actually going to work with a tool that we touch on in the training program that I work for, Martha's certification program, but we do it very surface level, and we don't take it much further. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to expand upon it, because I use this tool on myself. In fact, I used it this morning on myself, and I use it with my clients all the time. And it's something that you can learn and you can use yourself, or you can hire someone like me to help you. So so it's called the coaching framework in the certification program, Martha's certification program. But what I changed the name in my own world, and I call it the reality matrix. Isn't that better? Because this tool really is kind of helps us to understand how reality works, because we have our own ideas, but they're not the same. And so what I want to do is I want to first kind of, hopefully I can share my screen, and I feel like it needs a visual. Okay. So I'm going to do a little teaching, guys. And then Kathy's here, and Kathy is going to be my demo guinea pig volunteer. So thank you, Kathy. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a little teaching first, because we need to have like a foundation. And then we're going to use this tool, and we're going to actually use it on Kathy. Now, Sandra, sorry to single you out, sweetie, but you are generating a little bit of background, so I'm going to mute you, and then feel free to unmute yourself if you have a question. Okay, so we're going to share my screen, but first I have to pull up a Word document. I'm going to get a fresh one. File, new document. Come on. Now I'm going to minimize you. Now I'm going to click on this, and I'm going to share. Let's see if it works. Yes. Okay. Share. Okay. Can you all see this Word document? Give me a chat.
Yes.
Oh, perfect. Or just say yes. Okay, so why is not okay? The reality matrix. Okay. Now let's see if I can get this a little bigger. But yeah, things are a little slower because I think, I'm multitasking. And I need to close some things too, probably. I'm going to close you, Spotify. Actually, I'm going to stop share for a sec because I have to make sure. Yes. Phew, I thought I couldn't remember if I was recording. Okay. Bear with me, guys. Sorry about the delay here. I'm just trying to maybe get my font size a little bigger. Now I'm off to... Anyone else get confused about the new word? There's so many controls, it's very confusing. Okay, so here's the reality matrix, and this is going to be super, super important. So the first thing to know is that in your world, there are circumstances. For some of you, this is going to be review. Now, circumstances, and I'm hearing some more background noise. So if you are multitasking, please go ahead and give yourself a mute. So circumstances are things that happen in our world that are outside of our control. We don't have any power over them. So for me, as a recovering approval addict, and I imagine many of you struggle with this as well since you are on my list, is that other people, right? Whether they mute or not, whether people show up to your class, whether your husband takes out the garbage, whether your kids do their homework, whether they get ready when you ask them to 5 times. Those are things that you cannot control. Other things that you cannot control, the weather, whether a day someone's born, a day someone dies. We like to think that we have amounts of control over some things like politics, but sometimes that's another piece. Who's president, who gets elected president. Wish I had more control over that. Dogs and their health. Things, just circumstances, right? So those are things outside of our control. Now, the other thing that I want to bring your attention to are the thoughts that you have. Now, the thoughts that you have are the stories that you tell yourself regarding the circumstances. Okay, so one big one that I always have to be on sort of aware of in myself is my husband, because my husband is an interesting guy. Like, he's very smart. And he's so capable, and he is an amazing human being. We've been married for 26 years, okay? I am very blessed in that area. But he has this thing where, like, every time we get in the car, he forgets to put his seatbelt on, and then it dings, like does that ding, 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 ding. And I'm like, what is wrong with him? Like, what is it that is lacking in his brain that he can't remember to put his seatbelt on? Like, it blows my mind, right? So I have these stories I could tell myself about him to myself. The other thing he does is, like, he has these folded clothes in the closet, and he has these shorts in there. And, like, it's not that hard to fold shorts. Like, of all the kinds of clothes to fold, shorts are pretty easy to fold. And so I just ask him, because I'm a little bit, I would say, tidier. I like things tidier and organized. So I ask him, since I'm the one that does the laundry, to just keep them, stacked and fold it. It's really not that hard. But every time I open his little cabinet, it's like they're going in opposite directions. It's like he doesn't, I don't know. So he doesn't keep his shorts folded. And so I could make up lots of stories about that. I could come up with lots of stories about that, different thoughts about that. One of them, when it comes to the shorts, is that he doesn't respect me. Like, he doesn't respect my time. He doesn't respect all the work I do on the fucking laundry. And so that is a thought that I'm telling myself about the circumstance of him not keeping his shorts tidy. So I'm using a lot of like sort of mundane examples here. The other thought, or I'm sorry, the other piece to this puzzle, to the reality matrix, are feelings. Want to circle real quick back to thoughts. So keep in mind that thoughts are actually in our control. We get to control the stories we tell. So sometimes it feels like they're not in our control, and we just believe every thought, right, that we have. But the reality is that we could tell ourselves any number of stories about about the shorts, about the rain, about the dog, about our kids, about the president, all of it. We have infinite numbers of thoughts that we could have that we control over those things. Circumstances are different. We don't have control over that. Now, feelings. The emotional sort of whatever emotion we're having, that is another piece of the matrix. Now, the other thing to keep in mind about feelings is that they are impacted by the thoughts that we have. So you can imagine, and you can, if you're unmuted or if you want to unmute, you could guess what my feeling would be if I kept telling myself that my husband doesn't respect me because he doesn't keep his shorts folded. Anyone want to throw out a feeling that I might have about that thought? What feeling would I be generating if I had the thought my husband doesn't respect me every time I go in his cabinet and see that he doesn't keep his shorts tidy? Anyone?
Anger.
Yeah, anger is a biggie, right? Like anger and just like exasperation, frustration, right? Those are emotions that are generated by the thought. Now, all of our thoughts generate different emotions, okay? And so those emotions or feelings are a piece of this matrix. Now, based on the feelings that we have over the stories we tell ourselves about circumstances, we are going to have certain behaviors. Okay, so feelings like anger generate certain behaviors. So if I am angry because I'm telling myself the thought that my husband doesn't respect me, and that's because I keep going into his closet and seeing that he doesn't keep his shorts folded, and it's so easy to do, and why doesn't he just do it? What are some behaviors, anyone, what are some of my potential behaviors in relationship to my husband if I'm angry over the story that he doesn't respect me? Anyone want to throw out some possibilities of some behaviors? You can have a window into my life.
I would probably take them out and throw them on the floor and say, there you go.
There you go. Now you learn. Now you learn how to do it, right? Yeah. That's a great example of a behavior. Another behavior is just like cussing at him, yelling, just that, based on the exasperation, just throwing my hands up and, resentful, like based on resentment, which is a big one, is like just silent treatment, just fighting. Okay, that's the basic behavior on my end, right? And everybody's different. Everybody reacts to their feelings differently. So based on that behavior, our behaviors that are generated by the feelings that we have over the stories we tell ourselves, you will see certain results, okay? And so you can imagine, given what I've told you about my husband, if I were to scream at him, cuss at him, throw my hands up in exasperation, throw his clothes all over the floor, one of the results would be that my husband, there would be a bunch of clothes on the floor indefinitely. Because he would just leave them there, and he would probably just pick out his shorts from the floor until he had no shorts, and then he would just buy more shorts or something, because that's just him. And so the interesting thing though about results, right, is that the results, this is so powerful, you guys, so just remember this. The results that you generate based on the behavior that you get from the feeling, the results are always going to prove your thought true, right? And so my result is that my husband does not fold his shorts. And so now the shorts are on the floor, and they've been there for many, many weeks, and he just bought more. So notice that now I have lots of great evidence to support my crappy thought that my husband doesn't respect me. He's just gonna leave them on the floor, even though he knows I don't like that, and he's just gonna buy more, right? So that's a perfect piece of evidence to continue to reinforce my thought that generates all that anger and all that fighting, that my husband doesn't respect me, okay? And so this is the reality matrix, guys, and it is going to change your world, because now you can break it down and you can see that there are things that are out of your control. Those are the circumstances. For those of us who deal with relationship stuff and we get caught up in the approval garbage, we cannot control other people, okay? That's a circumstance. How they behave, how they react is a circumstance we cannot control. There's lots of other examples, okay? But I like to use the relationship one because, you know, that one tends to trigger me the most. Now, the thoughts that we have, the stories we tell, the way that we make meaning out of those circumstances is within our control. I gave you an example of an interpretation that I had, a series of thoughts that I had over a circumstance that I'm not happy with, that generated a lot of anger and brought about a lot of sort of antagonistic behavior. And that antagonistic behavior brought about a result that was not good, that proved my story true. Does anybody have any questions so far about this? Because it's a lot of teaching, but it's really important. You can go ahead and unmute yourself. Let's see. Welcome to those of you who have joined us. So nice to get to hang with you guys. Oh my gosh. Anybody have any questions? I don't think, let me see if I can see, I'm gonna stop sharing and see if I can see any of the chat. All right, for some of you, this is review, but it's worth reviewing because it's super powerful. I just went and reviewed it this morning and used it in my own life. And I was like, oh my God, this is so powerful. Okay, so now I shared with you the matrix. You probably wanna write this down, okay? You wanna like get something out and like just copy this down. So let me share it again. Now, the thing to keep in mind is that the thoughts that we have, the stories we tell, the way we make meaning is within our control. So now we can change our thoughts about circumstances that are challenging for us. So I spent, one of the things that you guys need to know about me is that I really struggle with sort of going into dark, like the darkness, I like to call it. It's not like a debilitating type of depression, but all my life, ever since I was a little girl, in fact, I had these really debilitating panic attacks when I was little. I go into anxiety big time. And sometimes it's easy to see what it's about, and other times it's not. But sometimes I will just go into a dark place. And so this is one of the reasons why I like to share these tools, is because I use them on myself. And so I was in a dark place yesterday, and sometimes it can be just a day. Sometimes it can be, it can last a long, several months. Sometimes, in the past, before I had these tools, it would last, years. So one of the things, that I did this morning was I spent time on this tool, looking at my thoughts and going in and revising the stories that I was telling myself about circumstances that I wasn't happy about. Now, you can change your thoughts, and then you can change. I hope that I broke it down in a way that you can see how working with your interpretation of circumstances can change the results that you get in your life, and that those results will provide more evidence that will bolster you, so that the positive results that you experience will continue to build on themselves. It's pretty fucking amazing. I don't throw out a lot of F-bombs, but I feel really passionate about this. And so I start to cuss when I feel passionate. All right, now there is a book I'm going to share with you, and this is the book. Okay, it's one of the Esther and Jerry Hicks books. Okay, it's law of attraction stuff. Okay, this book is called The Astonishing Power of Emotions. Now, I'm not a huge law of attraction guru. Okay, I don't spend a ton of time kind of on law of attraction. Not to say I shouldn't. It's just that I don't. But this book is one of my all-time favorite self-help books in existence. It is a law of attraction books per se, but it's very practical in that what this book does is it guides you through what they call downstream thinking. Okay, it's essentially what I just said. It's that you have a power over your thoughts, and there are thoughts that you can believe that generate an emotional state that just creates shit in your life. And then there are thoughts that you can believe that generate an emotional state that brings about behaviors that generate positive results in your life. And then this book goes through and it gives specific examples of thoughts. And and then it gives you all these examples of stories you could tell yourself that would generate different results. So I have so little money with no improvement in sight is a thought. My friends talk about me behind my back. That's a chapter in this book. Let's see, what else? Since my father died, I cannot find my balance. I mean, these are just examples of people's thoughts. My husband and my teenage son do not get along. Okay, I am not happy at work. Okay, and then it kind of goes through and it breaks those down and it suggests what they call downstream thinking. So one of the big ahas that I had actually after I was reviewing this book this morning was that one of the biggest, I think, sources of dissatisfaction in my life is when I start to get into this mode where I want to control things. I don't know if any of you do that, but I'm someone too who is pretty good at taking action. And so I find sometimes when you're good at taking action, or you're good at getting things done, or you're a great multitasker, a lot of times you get into this control. Now, what you're actually doing, if we're thinking about this in terms of the reality matrix, is you are trying to control circumstances, right? Like you're telling yourself and believing that if you could just change the circumstance through all this action and all this doing, then you will feel better. But I just shared with you that in the reality matrix, you can't control the circumstance, right? So this is why we feel so crappy a lot of the times, is because we're banging our heads against a wall, thinking that we can control things that we can't, right? So what this book is showing you and what the reality matrix tells you is that it's not the circumstance that you need to change. It's the story that you're telling yourself. You need to generate a different emotional response through the story that you're telling yourself. And then it breaks it down so that it's not just this airy-fairy, law of attraction, blah, 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 and it seems really woo-woo. No, it's because the feelings will generate different behaviors that will lead to specific results. So it's very practical. So I guess kind of what I've done is I've combined something that's super practical, right? The reality matrix, with something that's a little woo-woo, right? Like law of attraction. Okay, and so what I want to do is I want to actually demonstrate this. So first though, who has questions? Is this all review for you guys? Or is this new? I'd love to hear from a few of you. We've got a good number of people here. Is this all review? Maybe it's review, but maybe you're like, wow, I needed to hear that again. I needed to be reminded of this. And feel free if you want to just post your thoughts in chat. Anyone? Questions? S said, I think I've heard something very similar, but the structure is helpful. It's so helpful, you guys. Man, I tell you, I cannot believe what happens to me sometimes. I can get into this state where I am focused on a circumstance that I don't like, and then I will start to ruminate on it, and I will start to get into my old pattern, which is I'm going to work really hard and do all these things so I can change the circumstance. And then nothing changes and I just feel crappy. I continue to feel crappy. And then it just builds on itself and I feel worse. And then what happens is I don't notice all the amazing, wonderful things in my life. And that is really, 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 really big. So let's work with Kathy here. So Kathy, thank you for your willingness to be a volunteer.
Sure, anytime.
So talk to us about what's going on with you.
Well, this is so perfect for me because, we worked together in 2013, maybe years ago.
Gosh, wow.
Yeah. So, and I've been still trying to start a business since then.
Mm-hmm.
Done nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Now, of course, my circumstances got in my way. It's just hard because I am single and I'm working a full-time job, but my passion is to do what you do, really, by helping people that way. And I can't seem to get started.
Okay.
Ever. And another side note is like, you're not drinking anymore. And I'm like, I come home and I'll get in my head and then I'll be like, screw this. I'm going to have my wine and go to bed, so I'm not allowing myself the time because I live in the negative space of, I don't know how to do this. I don't know, how it just seems so surmountable. All the different pieces and parts that I don't know how are going to work out. Of course, I'm a self-help junkie too, so I know I'm not supposed to know how it's all going to work out. I'm just supposed to take action, but I can't seem to take any action. And I can't make a decision on what it is I want to coach on. There's several things that I have experienced, and I would love to do it all, which is another problem I hear from many entrepreneurs, is that you get so excited about so many different areas and you want to do it all, and then you end up doing nothing because you just can't get it together.
So I kind of, as you were talking, I started to plug some of this into the reality matrix. And so there are many, you mentioned several circumstances, and you guys can do this too, actually, as you're listening in, is create your own. This is what I do actually when I'm coaching clients, is I will actually plug all this in. And it's really a fantastic, for those of you who are coaches or who want to coach or want to coach yourself, if you're listening to yourself or you're listening to someone else, you can plug this in. Oh, that's the circumstance, that's the feeling, that's the thought, that's the result, that's the behavior. So I was just doing this for you, Kathy, and I want to start a coaching, working full-time, single, you said? Okay, so those were some things. And then I can't seem to take action you did mention other thoughts, but I kind of focused in on that one. And then I didn't hear you say the feeling. I can guess, but I'm going to leave that one blank for a bit. Okay. Then you kind of mentioned the wine, and that sort of like, well, one of the feelings I think based on what you said, like screw it, is
defeated.
Yeah. And then results is no coaching no coach, no coaching business.
Well, this
Tell
is
me
just
where
that.
no coaching, but notice how that whole result proves, like it just goes and it reinforces the thought, right? I can't seem to take action. No coaching business. It's just like all feeds. It's like this, it's a vicious cycle, right? And what we want to do is we want to turn it into a virtuous cycle. We want the results to feed into the thought in a positive sort of feedback loop, right? And so that's what we need to work on here. And this is also going to build on what we did last week, where we broke down the thinking using Byron Katie's tool, the work. But this is also, I would say, kind of like a little bit, well, it's different. It's shorter, but equally powerful. So the cool thing here when we're looking at this is that the thoughts that are what we want to, we can actually take this from different angles. Like you could take it from, how do you want to feel? So why don't we try that? Let's start from there. Like you said, you were noticing that you were feeling defeated. Like, how would you like to feel when it comes to the idea of starting your coaching practice?
I don't know, exuberant, or I don't know what the word I'm looking for. Just exhilarated, like
I like that.
Energized, like happy. Happy.
Yeah.
Joyful.
All
the things that I know you can feel.
Yeah.
when you're working on a passion project and it's happening for you.
And so one of the things you can do is you can do that. You can you can go from, like, you can work on, what do I have to think to get from defeated to exhilarated and joyful? Now that can be quite a leap, right? Like that's like pretty opposite extreme from defeated to exhilarated and joyful. So we can always go and see, like, what thoughts can I think, or what can I tell myself that can get me from defeated to exhilarated and joyful. Now, we can work on that. But the other thing that this brings up is that the cool thing about this model is that you don't have to go from one emotional extreme to the other for this model to be effective. And so it could be that you looked at the thought, I can't seem to take action, leading to defeated, which leads to wine and bed and TV probably and food and whatever. And you could say, what is something I could tell myself? What is a thought or a group of thoughts that I could tell myself? Maybe it doesn't lead to exhilaration quite yet. Maybe it doesn't lead to joyful quite yet. But maybe it just brings about a little tiny feeling of relief. So that's the cool part about this model, is that you could just start there, right? And see what happens. So what is something in this, so your circumstance, wants to start coaching, working full-time, single, haven't been taking action. What is something that you could believe? What is a thought that you could tell yourself that just brings about a little bit of relief in your body? So this is something where we have to pay attention to how we feel, because it's our body. And remember, some of you were on the call last week where I talked about your body being sort of like the service light in your car, and you got to pay attention to that light. Well, your body is acting in the same way here. We need to pay attention to how it's feeling, which is not always something that we have had a lot of practice with. And so I can't seem to take action. What's something that you can tell yourself and that you can believe that brings about a little bit of relief? So is there anything for you, Kathy, that comes to mind just off the top of your head? And guys, in the group, feel free actually to play along here and just post some thoughts in the chat for Kathy to try. And it's sort of like when you go shopping and you try on a bunch of shirts, right? And one shirt fits really good, and the other shirt you're like, I like the collar, but I can't really, the sleeves are a little too short. So you guys can throw out thoughts that she can try on to see if they bring out any relief for her. Okay, and so I might stop the share and see if there are any comments coming up. So feel free to play along, you guys. We can make this interactive. So Kathy.
Yes, please help.
Yes, Kathy's Kathy is looking for some help too. So be thinking about it. So Kathy, does anything come to mind?
Yes, when you were talking about it, the first thing that came to my mind was start small.
Ah, okay. So
I've always said, I called them embryo steps, like even smaller than baby steps, because, but then I remembered how quickly embryos grow, and then I freaked myself out. So I was like,
oh, does that scare you?
well, yeah, because even a baby step seems big to me. And I think it's because I don't have clarity yet around what it is I want to coach. Again, I have so many different things, and I had an idea for an email, not a newsletter because it's kind of obsolete, but an email that could go out weekly that would cover different topics.
Yeah.
But then that was like so overwhelming because there were so many different topics, and I feel like I have to narrow it down to one thing so that I could really be an expert at that one thing.
Yeah.
But I don't know what that one thing is yet.
So so notice there that those are just different examples of other thoughts, right? That are coming up. And so S said we did get a suggestion. I don't have to finish this task. I just have to start it. So there's something you can try on. Ooh, I can tell, Kathy, that felt like a good fit for you.
Yes. Just freaking start.
Just freaking start is another one too. Yeah. So I'm going to write that down. Thank you, S. Anyone else, please feel totally free to come join us in the fun here, the thought replacement fun. These are examples of what Jerry and Esther call downstream thoughts, because it's so much easier when you're floating downstream, right? It's like you don't have to work at it. You're just floating and flowing, and you're going towards the thing versus swimming upstream, right? And we can feel the difference in our bodies. You don't have to finish this task. I just have to start it. Gosh, we could just create a book here. I don't have to know what the hell I'm doing. I'm just typing these down, Kathy. Like maybe it doesn't fit, and that's okay. I'm just kind of gathering the different ideas. What I'm doing here, I just have to do something. The answers or the clarity comes from the baby step, not from knowing the how to beforehand. I don't know, that wasn't a very good grammatical sentence, but the idea is that, and this is something that really helped me and helped me become more of an action taker, is that, gosh, really, this did help me a lot, is just that the clarity, it's sort of like when I coach my business clients, right? We talk about niche because a lot of people, and you just mentioned this too, is like, I need to know what my specialty is going to be, or I need to, and sometimes it gets emphasized a lot in different places where people say, well, you got to have a specialty, or you got to know your niche, blah, blah, blah. And what I tell people is that knowing your specialty, knowing your niche, it's not an intellectual exercise, right? That clarity comes from actually taking action. Like that clarity comes from, trying something. Like I remember, because I struggled with infertility long time ago, right when I first started, I thought I was going to be working with women who were struggling with infertility. And then I tried it because on paper it was perfect. It was like I had the community, I had the referrals, I had the knowledge and experience. I was like perfect. Well, then I actually started a group, and you know what, you guys? Hated it. So the clarity, right, that we get so like stymied because we're like, oh God, I don't know. That comes from taking those tiny baby embryo steps. It doesn't come from anything else. And it's almost like, you have to take that tiny step in order to know the next step and to move forward, right? So that's something else. I kind of went off on that one, but I don't know if that fits in your dressing room, if that's a shirt you like or not. What else? Anybody else? Go ahead,
That's
Kathy.
what happened with the Asperger's thing that you and I worked on.
Yeah.
I did start it, and I did start a group, and it was just too heavy, and I
Yeah.
wasn't in a place where I was ready to go there for me, so I
Yeah.
couldn't, really help anybody.
Yes.
So I think there's probably some fear associated around that too,
Mhm.
because I don't want that situation to come up again with the other ideas that I'm doing.
Oh my
Pretty much
God.
everything that I want to do is heavy, unfortunately, but it's just because it's been my experience and I've
Mhm.
gone
Yeah.
from the dark to the light, and I want to
Yeah.
help other people do it. But it was dark, and it's where
Yeah.
people will be.
Well, so another one, like especially if you have fear around this, because this has happened to me so many times. It's like I will try something and it doesn't like I tried selling essential oils because I love essential oils, and I felt so bad because I was like, oh my gosh, I don't think that this is the right, like I didn't have any issues with the business model or any of it. Like I really, there were so many positives about it, and I friggin' love the oils and they've helped me so much. But I was like, this is way too much time that I wanted. I kind of thought it would be like less time. And I was like anything else. You have to you have to work at it, and you have to love it enough that you want to spend a ton of time on it. And I was like, yeah, I can't do it that much time. So I had to put that to bed, and it's like, it's humbling, right? But what I tell myself, because it's happened to me so many times on different things, is that you're never starting from scratch, right? Like as an example, like I had a multiple six-figure coaching practice, and I was, I was out from the outside. I looked very successful, and there were so many positives about it. But I just, there were things about it that just didn't fit. And I had to, like, over the summer, like, I kind of just went away, right? And I was like, okay, now I'm going to go come back. But wow, like, no one's heard from me for 3 months. So, what I tell myself is that you're never starting from scratch, you're starting from experience. And so that has helped me so much, because that knowledge that I gained from trying the oils, now I can share so much about it with clients. I don't need to sell it to them. They can buy it other places, but I have that experience. I have the experience of knowing that fertility coaching is not for me. I have the experience of knowing that all these things about running a multiple six-figure coaching practice that weren't for me, and things I would do differently. So all of it forms this kind of ball of experience that I can use. I'm never starting over. So that's another one, to throw out is um, you, I am never starting over. I am starting from experience. And all that experience is there for you to use so that you can do what it is you're meant to do. So there's another one to put in, to try on, another shirt. That one's polka dot. And you can try that on and see. So let's just take one as an example. Did anyone else, I don't think I got any other new ones in the chat. But if you do want to add to our dressing room of shirts, please do. But Kathy, is there one there that we threw out that felt like a good fit, like one that you just want to focus on for now?
I really love the last thing you said. I'm
Never starting over. I'm starting from experience.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And I know in my head that I have all the experience, but it's always like, is it enough? Or, so it all kind of feeds back into, doesn't matter, just get started, and then you'll see
Yep.
if it's enough. And I did the essential oils thing too.
Oh, did you?
My God. Yeah, they got my son sleeping through the night when he was 7. I was a huge fan.
Yeah.
But same situation, I couldn't, it was
It's
a little
just a
too
lot of,
much.
yeah. I mean, I mean, I know not all MLMs are, great, but this one
Right.
is, it was good. Like if you wanted to put the time into it, whatever.
But that's the whole thing. I had the passion, so I thought that was enough.
Yeah. Yeah. But you're not starting over, you're starting from experience. So let's look at that. And part of this is that we have to be really good thought catchers, you guys. So in the reality matrix, you have to be really on to yourself about what the stories are you're telling yourself about the circumstances. So so that's a piece that something that you need to practice. And we're going to work on this next week when we do another tool. This is all building on it's sequential. But part of that is maybe working with a coach, just practicing and just learning these tools and practicing, but just being super on to what are the stories I'm telling myself? What is the thought? What am I believing here? Because we don't have to believe all our thoughts, only the good ones. So the thought that we're focusing on here, that you brought in a downstream thought, because tell me where I'm wrong, but it brings about a feeling of relief.
Mm-hmm.
So based on the circumstance, that you're working full time and you want to start your practice, and you tell yourself, I'm never starting over. I'm starting from experience that I need to help my people in my own special way. From that thought, what feelings does it generate?
Relief.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, not exhilarated yet, but definitely relief. I'm a pusher. I'm always like pushing too hard. So it feels, just relaxing, chill.
Relaxed, relieved, relaxed. Sorry, where are you? Why aren't you? Okay, relaxed and relieved. So based on relaxed and relieved, what are some behaviors? Are you still like, screw it, I'm going to drink my wine and go to bed? Or...
No, that's so funny, because I'm like, okay, yeah, now I could sit down and do something.
Ooh. So what are you going to sit on? So you're sitting down to your desk, I imagine, or wherever it is that you work, sitting down and taking action on your business. I
have I'm going to start everything with building an email list. So being able to write, start ideas, maybe just brainstorming some ideas that I can send out. I'd like to come up with 52. I'd like to do a weekly email, but I can start with 5 today.
Yep. Beautiful. Okay, so based on sitting down and taking action, maybe coming up with 5 ideas, what are some results that you can imagine?
Actually pressing send on the frickin' email.
Sending an email.
Sending one email.
Woo! Gosh, sometimes that's all it takes, Kathy, is just one email.
I know.
Yep. And so from sending an email, notice we're going to go back up to, let's see. So the result is that we send an email, and based on that, let's take it a little further. I'm going to throw some stuff out here. Based on sending an email, you noticed your ability to take action, given that you work full time, given that you are just single and not having the support around you in the way maybe someone like me has, like a spouse who can actually provide that. And then so you've noticed yourself taking action. Maybe you get a response. Maybe someone says thank you. Like maybe they don't want to hire you right away, but maybe they're like, oh my gosh, thank you for saying that. Thank you for being out there with your story. That's very, very likely. Maybe someone's like, hey, let's talk. So maybe someone does reach out to you because you're going to talk about something that's difficult, that you struggled with, that a lot of people are probably in the dark just praying for someone like you. So someone may say, hey, let's talk, maybe, and we don't know. You get a coaching client. God knows. We don't know. Those are potential results, okay? They're all potentialities. We don't know. We can't predict the future. But at the very least, you notice you've given yourself proof that you can take action on your business, right? So based on that, we go back and we see that the thought, I am working from experience, I'm not starting over, I'm working from experience, is perfect. It's like it's all going to create this positive feedback loop. It's going to, and it's all, and then you can keep telling yourself that and generating the behavior. So say next time you're like, okay, well, I showed myself that I can take action. I didn't really get a response. It kind of felt like I was sending out to the void. But you can think of enough. You can go back and you can tell yourself, well, I'm not starting from scratch. I'm starting from the experience of having sent that last email. And so, or it may be that you want to change your thought to something else. Okay. So you've created that positive feedback loop, and it's all within your control. Okay. We got a comment here from Brenda, and I didn't get to read it. So I'm going to read that. Kathy, when I was figuring out my niche, I landed on the things that I felt were life-changing for myself. The two biggest life-changing things to me were being certified as a coach through IPEC and when my dad died. For me, it was important that they were life-changing in an over-the-top good way. So based on those two things, I coach on living the life you're meant to live and having specialty training in forgiveness and grief. Your heart knows, dear, you have to uncover it. So those are some
Thank you. That's
inspiration.
Awesome. Appreciate it. That's awesome.
So Kathy, give us kind of an idea of where you are with all this.
I get emotional because it's kind of like I'm kind of teary right now because I'm like, wow, geez, I'm really, am my own worst enemy, and I don't have to be. So it is simple. Like, and I've seen these things before. I've never worked them. Like, I'm a listener. I'm a reader. I absorb.
Yeah.
And then I don't do anything with it. Now, don't get me wrong. It feels great when I'm absorbing it, like a sign. But like putting this into action, I'm excited and grateful.
Well, those are emotions. Those are definitely positive emotions right there too. Excited and grateful.
Yes, they are the best kinds of emotions. Thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you. And I can totally relate, you guys, because I'm demoing these tools and I'm teaching these tools, and it's been really, I think this is, I have to say, maybe a little bit more for me than you, because like I said, I get into these dark funks myself, and gosh, and I had kind of gone underground for a few months. And part of that was just because we moved, and gosh, the kids are adjusting to a new place and starting new schools. And I just needed to be their mom and be really focused on that. But like I said, I've struggled with anxiety. I've struggled with depression. And I was like so inspired to just kind of go and do this coaching demo series. And I tell you, it has been so powerful for me because I've been doing this for 9 years and I teach these things, but it's really, you can get into a rut. You can get into sort of like, oh, I'm just going to go through the motion. And it has been so powerful for me to remind myself through these demos of the power of these tools. And it's been a while actually since I've just sat down and like went through my thoughts and took them through the reality matrix and looked for, the downstream thoughts that I could replace with. And so really, I mean, my day just kind of went from gray to full color. It was amazing. And I was just like, I feel like the universe, the angels, my guides, God, whatever you want to call it, was like, Amy, go back and remember. And so it was like so powerful for me to sit down and do this. And so I just want to really encourage you guys that this stuff works if you spend a little tiny bit of time on it. Like, this tool really doesn't take that long to just sit down and, look at your circumstances, look at the thoughts you're having about them, look at the feelings it's generating, break it all down, and then just go in and, see if there's anything you can tell yourself. It doesn't have to bring about like the extreme opposite. You don't have to get into, euphoria. But you can just like find something that brings about a feeling state in your body of relief. And then from there, just notice how your reality changes. And this book, again, really cool book. I'm actually going to reread it. This is one of those books where I open it up and all these, like, I've underlined almost the whole thing, but it's been a while. So I'm definitely going to reread this because it's got some great ideas for how you can work with this tool and how you can work with your thoughts, and even like really common thoughts that a lot of us struggle with because we're human, and what are some of the suggestions that they make for quote unquote downstream thoughts. So it's a beautiful resource that I recommend everyone have in their library. And we're almost at the hour. We are in the hour. So I just wanted to remind you guys that I am taking one-on-one coaching clients. I do have a program where I am going to be coaching you using all of the 6 tools. And so if you're someone who's like, I need support, and I need, not only do I need these coaching tools, but I need someone who is going to be on my side and is going to give me lots of love, and some of it tough love and some of it just love and encouragement and inspiration and laughs, then I'm here. I've got some spots open, and I'm actually discounting my one-on-one rate pretty substantially. And so if you are interested in the idea of working with me and using these tools, it'll be so much fun. So please do send me an email. I'm at pearson.amy@gmail.com before they get gobbled up. All right, guys. Does anybody have any questions about anything that we've talked about today? And once again, Kathy, I love you. I just love you.
I love you too. We are going to work together. I mean, I can't leave you. And everything I do, just so you know, just to fill your bucket up today. It's one of those like, what would Amy do? Because I go back to 2000. Is it maybe 2011 when I started following you. It's been a long time.
It couldn't have been that long ago.
It was that. God, time flies, which is another reason I gotta take action.
Yeah.
But I've been following you for a long time, and I love everything that you do, and I love everything. You're just authentic and real, and that's the only way I can be, and we need more people like you doing this. But I promise you, one day I'm hiring you as soon as I can. You know, I am.
I would absolutely love to work with you. You know that. And really thank you for those words. But, you know, in reality, I'm just a mirror, right? Because the reason that you appreciate that is because those are the qualities that you have. And so I thank you, but also I say, hey, go take a look in the mirror, because that's who you are. And all of you, you know, for whatever reason you're here, and I just appreciate you, and I thank you for being a part of my community and for this opportunity for me to revisit the tools, but hopefully also to make a difference in your life. And so thank you for being a part of this community. And, you know, feel free to email me if you have any follow-up questions, or if you'd like to set up a time to chat and talk about, you know, using these tools kind of in a coaching engagement. All right, guys, this is recorded. I'll post it shortly. Thanks again to Kathy, and you guys take care, and thanks again for being a part of this community. Take care.
Thank you.